Hey, I'm your host, Wes.
And I'm your host, Scott.
Come on in and grab a seat.
Because you're hanging with us at the Barbershop.
I would think that, pot and snacks.
Yeah. Go grab your pot, go get a Chelsea bun, and away you
go. It's a win-win.
To me, like, I don't, do the whole pot thing, but I hear you get the munchies.
Can confirm. It's been many, many years, but sure, I'll confirm that. Yeah. No different than sitting in that parking lot in.
Five Guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Who's going to get burgers and fries, and who's going to get their stuff?
That was the best game. Burger or pot. We should go do that again.
Burgers or pot. Burgers or pot.
Have you smelt the pot as you're driving through Dunsford just before the gas station? There's a distinct smell.
Yes,
in
I have.
Air.
Yeah, I have.
It's funny because we were saying they definitely got busted
last year.
With the big 50-foot trailers up by the highway.
And now it feels like they're just doing it again.
Some people just have no...
Well, the recourse of the people that are making the money, it's probably worth them...
If that's paying their legal fees, I guess. I think a lot of people do have that sort of, it's legal now, so why should it be restricted, more than what it is?
Right.
What do you mean I can only have 4 plants?
And I think they've put up more greenhouses.
Over here on 36.
Like I had to stop for the school bus the other day, and you can see them. They're like, there has to be 30 greenhouses back there now.
Oh.
They're just growing poinsettias.
And then driving past Stigangas and seeing that it's just like a ghost town and stuff's falling down.
But same thing, like is the risk to return. You do it. Everyone thinks you're legal because you put up a big fence and it's greenhouses, and it's like, oh, it's legal now. They must have got a grow op license. And then they swing in and be like, oh, illegal grow op.
Well, you'd think if
we all knew it was there.
The legal ones, are they not? I can't say for certain, but I kind of thought like the legal, like the government approved farms were kind of public record.
I think so.
Yeah. I don't really know.
I don't know if they'd have a sign by the road saying,
No, probably not. But I think if you, freedom of information, you could find out. And I think, the media has been kind of, I don't know if I want to say responsible, but have been, like quick to report that kind of stuff. Like, hey, it's because it is industry. I mean,
hires jobs and
sure. Yeah. Whether it's an industry you agree with or not is irrelevant, but I mean, it is industry. So, I mean, that's kind of reportable when you live, especially out here where there is no industry per se, right? So,
professional bud trimmer.
Is that what that's called?
I believe it is.
I figured that was your way of saying you're just pocketing some, trimming the bud.
I think, like, on a legit operation, you're going in and you're putting on a Tyvek suit when you go in there, no pockets.
I would think so.
You're stripping down, you're stripping out when you go.
Yeah.
So make it hard for you to sneak anything.
Well, it's funny that we just happen to be talking about plants because here we are back again. It's another episode of Hangin at the Barbershop. I'm your host, Wes, and he's got a mouthful of beer.
And I'm your host, Scott.
Hey, guys, we're back. It's been a long, oh my God, I don't even know how long it's been. It's been several weeks anyway since we've had a chance to safely get together and record. But a few things have happened since the last time we were together, and I thought it'd be fun to get back together and kind of talk about where we're at. And we're joined once again by the ladies. Hello, Kimberly.
Hello.
How are you tonight?
I'm doing good.
Excellent. And once again, Michelle.
Hello.
Hello. So, I guess it was January. Maybe it was even earlier than that. December. When did we decide
Boxing Day was the official shutdown of things.
Sure. When did we decide that we wanted to do something interactive?
Man.
It's a while ago because
we've been talking about it. So I think the official post went up on January 4th.
January 4th. That was the vote now.
Yeah.
And I just want to say to everybody who's been following along and who's been sort of patiently waiting for updates, I am so sorry that I have not had the motivation to hop on Facebook. I know I said I was going to in a previous update, and I haven't really, but let's consider what we're doing tonight to be that update, as we are still in the month of February. So back towards the end of December, I think we sort of were sitting around the table having a sort of a casual evening, and thought, would it be fun to do something, some kind of challenge where we can get our listeners to sort of participate and kind of steer the ship, as it were. And that's exactly what you did. So just to remind you guys, we decided it was going to be the Great 2021 Lifestyle Challenge, and we put some options out for you back in January with a thumbs up if you wanted to see us go vegetarian, a heart if you wanted to see us compete for the most steps in the end of the month, the care emoji if you wanted us to abstain from sody pops, and that's the non-alcoholic kind, for a month. Laughy faces for no alcohol, the surprise face for 8-ounce glasses of water every day, crying for no coffee or tea for 1 month, and angry face for no sugar. It was, strangely enough, I don't know about you, but I was pretty nervous, and I kind of followed what was going on. Like, I scrutinized that thing like every day
just to see where it was sitting.
Yeah, because I had my sort of thoughts as to what I thought was going to be relatively easy for me to do versus the ones I didn't want to do.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was legitimately nervous that it was going to come up.
Start seeing one coming up and one going down. You're like, oh, who liked that? Who?
Right.
Yeah.
But you had a thought about that too, about, it didn't matter what the choices were, that, whatever the thumbs up.
The like button.
Yeah. I mean, it's the default response to anything on Facebook,
so
right?
On that post, yeah, if we would have added one more emoji and had nothing for like, I think possibly that
it might have been something else.
It would have been different, because I think a lot of people, and you know what, I still appreciate, as I've said a lot, if it's engagement, right? So whether you read the post or not, you hitting the like button still means a ton. And I think there's a lot of people that just see that it's, that webpage, and they follow it, and they smash the like button.
Oh, hey, there's a new post out from the guys at the Barbershop, so I'm just going to like that. Like, oh no. Read it. Please read. Read.
So, yeah, and it slowly started to take that lead, right?
When did you, I know you'd said to me you were a little concerned. So, like, at what point did you get kind of nervous about which way it was going?
For a lot of it, I think it probably ended up being about that, like, mid-month, like right when we were starting to see, okay, everybody that was going to interact with it off the hop, probably did it, within that first 5 days. So then when it sort of was sitting at, January 15th, 16th, and there hadn't been a lot of movement, same thing, right? And I won't fib and say that my kids that never on Facebook went and possibly voted because they didn't want to be a vegetarian for the month. Maybe. So I think they both voted for no booze because it didn't affect them.
I think, the other thing was that we weren't very clear about it. And I know maybe I shouldn't be admitting this to our listeners, but we did allow ourselves a vote. So,
I think that's allowed. Like,
is it though? I mean, because that's kind of like
you would vote in an election.
That's true, but it was close, and we knew it was close for a while, getting towards the end, right, where it was like, this is going to be one of two things, and it's like, are we now influencing the vote if we do this?
I think too, right? It's that mindset as a household.
Yeah,
having something that you're taking away has less of a financial impact than adding. And I think eating a vegetarian diet adds to your grocery bill.
Oh, it absolutely does.
Now, again, we've talked, by not having to buy meat, I think maybe you're actually seeing the the grocery bill is a little bit lower. Michelle, you...
It is, if you didn't take into account that we just purchased a side of beef and a side of pork weeks before this came out. So we have a huge freezer full of meat that we haven't been able to touch.
And I mean, at our house, Kim and I, we had been attempting to do something more ketogenic like we had done last year. And so we also had a significant amount of meat and meat products kind of in the fridge and the freezer. And what's really interesting in that is that every time I open the fridge thinking, what am I going to make for dinner? And I'm seeing the meat sticks, like the pepperoni sticks and the deli slices and the kielbasa's and the stuff that we just keep to have on hand. I honestly thought that I was going to have a harder time with it than what it's turned out to be.
Yeah, I think you said, and I think I've talked about it, that we really haven't reached for anything or had a day where it's like, oh, I'm going to just, sneak a hamburger, or...
I nearly did the other night just before we threw axes this week. So, I mean, and it wasn't because I wanted the meat, it was because I was pissed off and that we were burning time. We had we have a fixed time that we had to be at the club to start. And it's like, Christ, I can't get into where I want. And no, don't begrudge anybody. The restaurant that we went to, they were awesome. They're doing exactly what they're supposed to do. They're enforcing all of the COVID protocols, and they're enforcing their occupancy limit. And they were at their occupancy limit, and with no estimate of when we could get in, we weren't going to stand there and argue with her. It was like, okay, we'll go somewhere else.
Right.
The problem is, though, when you have to be somewhere at 6:30 and you want to have a sit-down meal at 10 to 6, holy shit, what do you do?
It starts limiting where you go, right?
Right.
Who's got a meatless option?
So it worked out that we were able to go across the street and I just said to Kim, let's go to Smitty's. They do breakfast all day. And I mean, we did decide when we went vegetarian that, that was the second question, was how strict are we going to do this? And I think I had asked you and you immediately were like, ovo-lacto, eggs and cheese are okay. And I'm like, great, because if I can't have meat, at least I can have that. So, Thursday night, I'll just go across the street to Smitty's and have breakfast.
Right.
Which is exactly what I did.
Yeah, right. You can have a loaded omelet or lots of choices.
But I tell you, with the time burning, I was angry because of that. I'm like, I'm just going to get a fucking burger. But I didn't. So, yeah, it's been, as I said, it's been a lot easier for me than I had initially anticipated. Looking at the choices, I just want to go through this again. When we saw, because Andy, producer Andy, actually kind of came up with the list of this.
Yes.
So props to Andy for doing that for us. Always does a fantastic job on the show, behind the mic and behind the console. So props to you, sir. When you first saw the list, what did you think for you were the easy ones?
As much as we love to drink,
what are you talking about?
It's such a social thing for me. It's not a come home and need to have a beer or a drink every night. So to say that, that's 4 weekends I wouldn't have to drink, and then we were in lockdown. So then it's like, well, I'm not going to drink anyway.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the no alcohol, I wasn't too worried about. And then, it starts to come down to other things. Like, if I couldn't have coffee, I guarantee you I would have just drank more pop.
Yeah.
If I couldn't drink pop, I probably would have just drank more beer or coffee.
Yeah. I once worked for a doctor who used to say, there's water in coffee.
Yeah. Same. The no sugar thing. It would have been interesting because it's deciding how we were going to do that. So is that just,
does that allow you fruits?
Right. Or you're just not having. Yeah. You're not having. So you're basically saying no junk food.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that would have actually probably been hard to do.
Yeah, I think so.
We like to snack. So, I mean, if you start thinking, if you really broke it down into, okay, well, no sugar, so that means no gummies, no sweets, no candy bars. And then would you take chips out of the thing and just go cold turkey and no junk food?
It's an honest question.
Yeah.
And it's a good one too, because like I said, we were doing more of a ketogenic diet. So that's like super low carb, right? For those of you who've never tried it before, it's a high fat, moderate protein, low carb. So you think, I thought that we were doing great. Like, I mean, we were coming up with some great ketogenic recipes. We enjoyed them. And then it's like, oh, the lifestyle challenge. And shit, we're vegetarian for a month. And I thought, oh my God, this is going to be weird. But really, I'm like, okay, ketogenic is out the window, vegetarian is in, and now I'm eating all the carbs that I would not have eaten were I still ketogenic. Yeah, so
I feel very, like, for what we've been picking as meal ideas, it's very savory.
Yeah.
Certainly haven't shied away from cheese.
You have or have not?
I have not.
Oh, me neither. I mean, cheese is on everything.
Yeah. Yeah, and just kind of, it feels that it gives that bulk.
Yep.
Because we were talking about that. And you know what? I give huge shout outs to the casual conversations and the people at work. For sure, there's a generational gap sort of with me and a lot of my staff. And there certainly is. I would tell you, you shave 15 to 20 years off.
Yep.
And there's very much a movement towards plant-based eating in the younger generation. Whether that's a moral decision or a health issue or just coming down to taste.
I don't know.
I'm telling you, that was all three of those things where people, because I got asking and talking to people, because I tell you, I bet there's over 8 people I can talk to at work about what they're choosing to eat in their plant-based diet. So, which I've had, right? It's a really good draw that way.
Yeah. I think for me, I kind of fall into a similar sort of mindset where you are, where for me, I saw no. So first of all, I love pop, but I had already switched to sugar-free pop. So I was like, okay, that's not going to be a big one. Vegetarian was the one that made me nervous the most because I just had never done it before. I'd always been a kind of a meat and potatoes kind of guy, right? Like that's how we grew up. So if you ask mom, what's for dinner? Meat, fucking potatoes. Oh, okay. All right. So just whatever was on the plate is what you ate. But alcohol is an interesting one because there is alcoholism in my family. And so I've always been relatively conscious of the way that I use and consume alcohol. So I don't know if I've said this before on the show, but we've had a conversation. I certainly have mentioned to you where there's twice in my life where I quit drinking on principle for like a year at a time. So for me, that was like, oh, no booze, no problem. Water was a questionable one because last year when we were doing keto, I was a water fiend. And I mean, at one point I was up to 4 liters a day. And
it was crazy.
Yeah, it was a lot of water, but
crazy.
I did adjust to it eventually. Like, I think when you start drinking that much water, when you're not used to doing it, I mean, obviously you're going to start flushing your kidneys, but eventually you start letting go of the water that you were retaining because now you're actually getting.
You're at that point. You need.
Yeah. So water was less concerning, but it was more of a.
You were freaked out about
I was. Vegetarian. So vegetarian, and then the other one that really bothered me was coffee. I mean, you know what? Coffee is one of my. I used to smoke cigarettes. I smoked cigarettes for almost 20 years. And they kind of go hand in hand, coffee and cigarettes. So I'm like, I've already quit smoking. I haven't smoked in like over 10 years. But if you take my coffee away now, so when the vote was closing down and it was kind of between no booze and vegetarian, I was like, oh, this is going to be a win.
Right.
And then in the last 24 hours, good listeners, whoever you are out there, the vote rapidly changed by like 3 or 4 votes in literally in the last 24 hours,
right.
And it became vegetarian. So,
and we also we assume some people did not put an emoji and made a comment.
Yes,
and we did try to go back and kind of read that comment and been like, okay, well that person's definitely saying, vegetarian. And that one's saying no booze, but, we're assuming if you made that comment that you didn't, because you can kind of go back and see who did the emojis too.
There was so some people actually put the emoji in their comment.
Yes.
Right? And it's like, oh, okay, well, we can count that. There was a couple, I don't know if it was Brian and Brian's wife, do everything.
I think Brian was do everything, and ideally,
which really, I mean, so that's a vote for everything, which is really a vote for nothing.
Nothing.
So it doesn't change the numbers at all.
No.
So not saying that we, didn't take that into consideration, but that is the reality of it. So for those of you who made comments, we did count your comment, even if you didn't react using the emojis like we kind of wanted you to. But it's a learning process.
Yeah. So has anyone reached out to you and asked how you were doing?
No, not really, not at all.
So I got a phone call from Mama Kay.
Oh,
so gave me a call one day and asked me how things were going and what I had for breakfast, and sort of, I'm like, oh, I had a nice big omelet on a bagel, and she's like, a bagel, and I'm like, yeah, Mom, just vegetarian, not vegan.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, I said, so just no meat, and she's like, you think you're gonna make it? And I'm like, this is like 4 days in. I'm like, yeah, I think we're gonna be okay. And she's like, and what do you think about Wes? And I'm like, I think he's got enough willpower to do it. So, she was like, well, if you get through it, maybe I'll send you a gift card for somewhere that serves meat when you're all said and done.
That's so nice.
But that, and then there's people that have commented to be like, and we've posted some of our meals on the website and sort of what we've been eating. That first week was a real big one, I think. I wanted to make a good showing that, I think you'd posted a couple of pictures and I'd posted at least one meal that I had done, maybe one or two. I know I I posted what I referred to as my last meal. Yeah. Which was like full rack of ribs, big mound of fries. And I think we had roast beef.
We had roast beef.
We had roast beef dinner. So yeah, for sure. And I mean, it's sort of that thing is, it's almost like Lent. You got to clean out the fridge.
Yeah.
Of anything you had before you're not allowed to eat it. But it's funny too, because there one night, somebody's making a comment and be like, I can't believe you're doing this to yourself. And it's like, oh man, it's for sure. It's been enjoyable. And it's really shown me that it's obtainable. And we've definitely done some recipes that we've really enjoyed. But the one night I'm like picking up tofu and I'm walking around and I look down and there's like, forget what it even was. It's probably like a sirloin and it was on sale. I'm like, oh, that's a really good price. And I bought it. And I'm like, and then I put it in the freezer. Because I'm like,
into the full freezer of meat.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, that'll keep.
But you know where it is.
Yeah. It was just a price point. I'm like, that is an awesome deal for a sirloin roast. And I'm like, why would I not buy it?
It made you feel good getting the deal.
Yeah, exactly. I bought olive oil today when I figured we were maybe up a bottle or two, but again, it was like more than half price. So it was like, I'll just grab one more.
Mm-hmm.
Having my father-in-law live with us and living with someone who's of a different generation, who has a completely different lifestyle, and seeing his shopping habits, because he wants to be contributing to the household. So we do a lot of sharing of the groceries, but I've forgotten, I guess it's because I don't live on I live on a fixed income, but I live with a comfortable fixed income where I don't shop based on the price this week. It's never been a consideration for me. Whereas like Kim's, your dad, he'll see something and go, that's a good price, and he'll buy it and be like, what are you doing?
I don't think it's even, I think it's just the deal, the special. Like,
well, there is that too.
That.
Now, that is another aspect that we've noticed.
He's a flyer shopper.
He is. Whether he needs the item or not, if he feels it's a good deal, it's a win. He feels good. Toilet paper
products.
Towel,
yeah, paper products are a big one for him.
He gets excited over that.
So that kind of brings me around, talking about your dad reminds me that for both of us, there are other people involved in this, whether they wanted that. Well, here's the thing, right? I mean, you guys are a family of 4, and we're essentially the 2 of us. Now, Lloyd is there, but I mean, he kind of comes and goes and does his own thing however he chooses. So we didn't really factor him into.
He still eats meat. And
sure.
all that stuff. Like,
if he wants to eat the meal that we're making, he eats what we eat. But Kim, you, without batting an eye, because I asked, are you're not going to eat vegetarian for a month, are you? And you immediately were like, yes, I am.
I did say it. Now, I did have a few meat meals in the early beginning.
Yep.
I think my pizza was...
Yeah, and you were concerned. You were all like, guilty or feeling like
I felt bad,
self-conscious about eating meat in front of me, and I'm like, listen, you can eat whatever you want. You're not under the challenge. I am, so it's not going to upset me if you do that.
And then I just felt, no, we'll do it together, and
makes cooking easier.
it does.
Because now all of a sudden you're at, instead of cooking for one, it becomes, oh, cool. It's a meal. You can kind of actually do something or plan something or.
Salad was always a big part of my repertoire anyway when it comes for me when I'm making the meals. But even I was like, I can only eat so much freaking salad, right? Like, and I'm not a big like leafy lettuce kind of salad person. Like, I'll do a lot of like cucumber based.
Yeah,
like,
great.
Yeah, exactly. But maybe you can tell me if I'm wrong, but with just the two of us, what's it like when there's 4 people, because there's you and Michelle and now the kids.
Right.
How is that going?
They have eaten quite a bit of what we've done. So our first foray out into the world of tofu was we did a stir fry.
Okay, so you're ahead of me on that because we have not done tofu yet.
No.
It's so funny because, right, it's like, do you get firm or do you get extra firm? So I've really come to the conclusion that depending on what you're doing with it, it is important on the firmness of your tofu.
So I've had tofu before. It's been a long time. It's probably been over a decade. I think the only tofu meal that I had was a vegan chili that was made with tofu, and to me, I mean, it was like eating spicy vegetables with some like gummy cubes in the middle of it. Right. So,
and I think depending on how you prep it, we've been marinating it, I guess is the term I would use as a meat eater. That, right, you make up a sauce, you throw that in.
Yep.
And then once it's all covered in the marinade, we've been throwing a little bit of cornstarch onto it to give it a little bit of a...
Firm it up a little?
Yeah, I guess, or almost kind of gives it like a coating.
Yeah.
And then you throw it in real quick into the fry pan with a little bit of oil and kind of saute it, and then you throw it in with the veggies. And it hasn't been, like, that's probably been my favorite.
Yeah.
And it hasn't overly been squishy. And it's picked up, definitely there's been a leaning towards soy sauce versus Worcestershire. Yeah.
That one.
Yeah.
The W sauce.
Yeah. So the kids definitely, we've done it both ways, and they both said, it was probably better with the soy sauce.
Interesting.
But yeah.
No backlash from the kids, though, about like, oh, vegetables again? Or
No, I think this is the problem is we're still very much in that household of... if you don't eat what we're eating, then you're more than welcome to go cook something for yourself. Yeah, you know where yourself. The kitchen is. Yeah, exactly.
And they're old enough to do it, so it's no stress.
I mean, and
right?
we've talked about that, and those were some of the moments where I was staring at meat. We did.
Child, why are you cooking that steak in front of me? It smells so goddamn good.
They'd never think that way, which is totally cool. They totally could, but I just don't think that's in their mindset. But we did paninis one night, and I fried up some bacon for the kids. And I've always been, when you take the bacon off the tray and you pat it down.
You're put a slice in.
Oh, like half a pound.
Yeah, of course.
In my yap, right? And I looked at it. I for sure looked at it. I'm like, I could just throw that in my mouth and eat that right now, and no one would know. And I just left it on the plate.
Good
and still made the kids their paninis and put some bacon on it.
That is some serious willpower, my friend, because I think if I were in your shoes, I might have dipped my finger in the oil and
Ew, that's disgusting.
Just to get the taste of the bacon grease.
Yeah. Well, you know what? And let's be honest, I can't tell you if I honestly if I would have cleaned that pan because I baked it. So I did not use that pan for anything else other than bacon that night.
That's cool.
And then on Super Bowl Sunday, not that we're huge football, but that was the night we decided to do cauliflower tofu nachos.
Nice.
And for the kids, I made them.
You had mentioned that, Michelle.
They were very, very tasty.
Yeah.
We've actually made it twice now.
And that's been one we've really enjoyed. But I fried up a pound of ground beef for the kids for their nachos.
So they could have regular.
Yeah.
Sure.
And not that, I mean, Ethan still ate the cauliflower stuff and he enjoyed it. But,
yep.
I mean, right, Georgia had her she's very much ground beef, cheese, and nacho chips, and that's her nachos. But it's funny too because there was leftover ground beef, and it's like, okay, you guys need to eat. Yeah,
you need to do something with it because it's got to get used by you.
Yeah, I don't want. I'm not going to be eating it. No. It's not going to be in my leftovers.
Right.
So, and I mean, I think Georgia finally, like one day to Ethan, be like, "You need to eat that ground beef before it goes bad." And he probably just went up and ate it
on the spot.
Ate it like a chimp, right? Just
give me a spoon.
Yeah, and whether he even put anything with it or ate it right out of the Tupperware.
Interesting,
but ate it.
So cauliflower. Early on in the challenge, I mean, before we started getting creative and like looking at recipes, and we've got a few cookbooks. We certainly don't have a vegetarian cookbook in the house, but like the internet, I mean, the world's knowledge is at your fingertips, and we've found a few. But like the first couple meals were like, well, we like vegetables because, like as you say, we're kind of grazers. We get together, we like to do platters and stuff. So we've cut up broccolis and cheeses, or broccolis and cauliflowers, and I've done like the no flour cheese sauce a couple times now, which has turned out to be kind of a hit. I tried cauliflower steaks last week.
I think so.
So that's basically taking a big head of cauliflower.
So it's steak in name only. Wow. You like you say, you can take a head of cauliflower, you basically cut off the sides, and you basically have a slab of what's in the middle, like a cross section of brain, really.
Yep.
So if you're doing it for like multiple people, you need multiple heads of cauliflower to pull this off. Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, I looked at several, cooking websites and recipes for it. And I kind of amalgamated a few different ones with like, drizzle of oil and these spices, and this will give you the hearty flavor. And I thought by the time I was done, it was still just a slab of cauliflower that had spices on it.
Baked it?
Yes. Yeah, totally baked. So then we started getting into like other things like we love mushrooms. Mushrooms tend to are a good void filler for that a little more texture. I had done a couple times. I did portobello mushroom caps with a fried egg on them.
That sounds good.
Fried egg and cheese.
They're delicious.
It's good. The problem is, and this is, I mean, with mushrooms, all mushrooms, is they hold water like a sponge. So you start cooking these things, and next thing you know, you've got a pan full of water, and it's not a fried mushroom anymore. It's a sautéed mushroom because all the liquids come out of it.
Have you thought about pre-baking them?
You're supposed to. There's some recipes that say that.
Some say do that. Others say scoop the veins out of them, like scrub the veins off the bottom, because that's where a lot of the moisture is held. Low and slow is the big one, though. Like that's what they say. Do them low and slow. So the second time I actually did that, I cooked the mushroom cap separately. I fried the egg, and then I put it on, and like there was no flipping or anything. It was just,
right.
And that turned out to be pretty good.
Well, I cooked for you guys tonight.
Oh my
god!
Oh
boy! So you should have been cooking for all of us, like from the beginning.
We
should
have been coming over more often.
Damn lockdown.
Yeah. So black bean burgers.
Lovely.
Second go around for us for those. So we attempted to do it. That was a Pinterest post, and I thought it looked kind of cool, and I thought, oh, I could probably make that. It can't be that hard. And same thing. Yeah. It was a pre-bake of the beans, and then a lot of spice and a lot of binder, and
sure.
baked them up, and they kind of look like hamburger patties when you're done.
They absolutely look like they simulated the shape and the color, and it looked good to me, and it tasted great.
Filling.
I think I actually prefer it over a meat burger, to be honest.
There you go.
It was so much flavor. It was really good.
Who are you, and what have you done with my wife?
I is me.
But you think of the spice palette in it. So I mean, right? There's cumin, which kind of has a hearty meat smell to it. I guess.
Yeah.
Smoked paprika's in there.
Yep. Yeah, that's a go-to for me on the spice rack. Lots of paprika.
Right. There's pepper. There's chili peppers. Good chunk of feta in there.
Was there onion in that?
There is.
I thought so.
There's half an onion and like 3/4 of a bell pepper.
Oh, nice.
So, I mean, that gets sauteed up ahead of time, and then you kind of throw it all together and mix it. And yeah, it's definitely they talk about you don't want it to be mushy.
No.
And I think the first time we did it, I actually thought they were sort of a little too dry or a little chalky. And then this time I put a little more ketchup than what they called for. And I thought it was pretty good. It didn't give that same profile. And I mean, right, you can take care of too dry with your condiments as well, right?
Yeah.
So you can still put on mustard and relish.
Slather on as much as you want.
Yeah, and it really changes that again, right? So, and right, you never forget the cheese, so put a little more cheese on there.
So let's go back for a second. I know you guys have said that you've had tofu a few times.
Yep.
Let's talk about other meat substitutes, like the commercially made stuff, like the Beyond Meat products. Have you guys dipped into that yet?
So one of my coworkers at work that is a vegan, had mentioned that she had some patties at home that she thought tasted too much like meat.
Too much. And sorry, she's vegan.
She is.
Now, so veganism is kind of a choice. I mean, unless you were raised that way from childhood, I would assume. Do you think that comes from she remembers the taste of meat, and that's kind of like
maybe, or as you say, there's all kinds of choice on that, whether it's a moral choice or whether it's a dietary issue or
religious,
or you know what, maybe you really don't like the taste of meat,
maybe.
So it's to her, she's like very much that was the reason she had no problem getting rid of them.
Tasted too much like meat, and we don't eat meat.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a fair shake to want to get it out of your house.
Yeah. So dropped off a couple patties, and we cooked them up and ate them. And what did you think, Michelle?
They had really no taste.
They were
their consistency was weird.
Not as good as black bean burgers.
Not as good as your black bean burgers, no.
And then one day we were on the road and we went to A&W and got their Beyond.
Who do have Beyond Meat burgers on the menu.
And I know, but
we've done that once as well.
It was expensive.
It was not worth the price.
And it's funny because he would ask me what I thought of them, and I'm like, meh. But there's nothing to say that I didn't still just
shove it in your pie hole.
I ate it like I was fucking starving. Like I think I was done in like 2 seconds. Michelle's still kind of eating hers, and she's like, "Are you done?" I'm like, "Yeah."
So because I was nervous about the vegetarian challenge, I said early on, I said I'm gonna have to go out and get some Beyond Meat, because we'd tried it when Tim Hortons did their trial and they were carrying Beyond Meat burgers. We're like, let's go try this thing just to see what it's like. And I have to admit, the first time we had it, I don't know if it's the way it was prepared or if it was just a particular recipe that was only a proprietary thing just for Tim Hortons, but we had it at the drive-thru. And I can remember saying to you, Kim, that if nobody told me,
you wouldn't know.
I wouldn't have known.
It was good until we got the second one, and then we're like, something's happened.
Yeah.
Because the second one was not as good as the first one.
Fast forward to now, and we've now had 2 different commercially prepared meat substitute burgers. One is Beyond Meat, and then the other one was the PC House brand, I think.
I can't remember.
And I can't say that one is better than the other, but I will say this. The meat patty itself is 1,000 times better than the ground beef substitute. The Beyond Beef, like the ground chuck, I guess it's simulating. We used that in a box of Hamburger Helper.
It didn't save it.
No. It was like the hamburger killer.
Yeah, I'm sorry to who's listening and they like it, but I took it out of the package and it reminded me of cat food, wet cat food. It had the smell and it's like cooking, and I'm like, it's not going away. And you put the spices in and then you're eating. It's like, I can't do it. It just...
I would tell you too, with the tofu, I've really tried to do it. Like there's definitely, with a softer tofu and you break it up, it very much has a scrambled look to it.
Yeah.
And it has yet to get to the point where I would say that I was eating like, gets to start looking like ground beef.
Right.
But that consistency and that texture, and it is a little soft. But I think that's why you're using it with other things. I think I enjoyed it on the nachos the second time more than the first. I think the first time I even said to Michelle that it felt like it was a little too soft, too mushy. And as we've talked before, I'm a bit of a texture guy. And but right, it didn't say I'm not going to do this again. I just cooked it a little bit longer.
I think we added different spices too the second time.
Yeah, I think we did a little different palette for sure.
But we forgot the taco spice.
That was the go-to.
Maybe. So at the time of this recording, we still were roughly 10 more days left in the challenge here. I just want to put it out to you guys, ladies, if you want to give your thoughts as well. I'd like to hear that. But particularly for you, Scott, as my recording partner, do you see yourself continuing beyond the end of the month? Is this going to be a lifestyle change for you, or do you think you're going to revert?
I think we've always struggled at our household with meal planning.
So do we.
So this obviously has brought up at least 2 or 3 meals.
Yeah.
That, because they're not meat oriented, I think actually becomes simpler for other people in the house to prepare.
To make it. Oh, that's a really good point.
So, I mean, right? They're just vegetables. It's just tofu. You just got to chop it, block it, throw some soy sauce on it. And right? So it just changes that profile, because I would tell you, if we weren't eating tofu, I bet those nights we would have been eating pasta. So, I mean, there's lots of nights when we weren't being restrictive that we still didn't eat meat.
Yeah, same with us.
So, I mean, there's definitely nights that we don't. There's definitely nights we still enjoy just having an egg, right? Or a Western on a toasted Western with no bacon, right? Because bacon takes time, and it becomes that whole thing. And I think we've left ourselves some more time for prep.
Yeah.
But it really doesn't take that much to chop up a bunch of vegetables and saute them.
No, it really, and with us being, self-employed, it's nothing for me to get up in the morning and have breakfast and then immediately me go back into the fridge and start pulling out all the vegetables to do all the prep for the dinner that night, which I've done quite a few times now. So that there is like, if we're not going to cook that, then there's like chopped vegetables for whatever salad we're going to eat tonight or tomorrow. So like you say, there is an element of planning involved, and I don't know if I think that's where we still struggle the most, is like in that, what do you want?
For sure.
Well, for me, it's you get in a rut, you eat the same things, you get bored.
Yeah.
It's like, and then you're tired and you're like, I don't want that.
Yeah, at least with a vegetarian or plant-based diet, that whole I don't want to cook, well, you don't have to. You can take that cucumber out of the fridge and start chewing on it. Not that I've done that, but to be honest with you, like, we are keeping more like stick cut vegetables, carrots, celery, cucumbers, that kind of stuff. And there are nights where like, okay, I'm going to grab the jar of peanut butter and a few celery stalks.
Because we're not that hungry.
That's right. Yeah.
I've got a funny story for you. Yeah. So I tried to bake chickpeas.
How'd that go?
There's a fine line on, I think it was, so wash them, soak them, spice them, 40 minutes at 375. So a little hotter than I thought.
Okay.
And check often.
Check often.
And okay. I mean, right in the recipe, it says it at the tail end.
Was that in large font, bold?
Enough that I knew.
Okay.
Enough that I knew.
All right.
And it's just one of those days, and I was definitely hungry that day. I was like, I need something.
Yeah.
And I think we didn't have any really things snacky. And I think we got to, 10 minutes? Mm-hmm. And then I went back at 8.
Yep.
And they were just little charcoal nuggets.
Oh, no.
But he still ate them.
Oh.
Because you were hungry.
Yeah. So I think I mixed
That
them.
Is dedication, sir.
Yeah. I'm not throwing them out. I'm like, I ate a few, and I'm like, oh. And then I put them in a bowl, and I think I put tzatziki sauce on top of them and just ate it like fucking cereal. And I'll tell you, the next day, you could smell the charcoal coming out of me. I'm like, oh.
Wow.
Maybe Carcinogen.
We talked a little bit earlier about what we were going to do, and I'm still kind of on the fence about what I want to do. I questioned early on in the challenge, because we had already tried to do like ketogenic diet. I'm like, is there a way that I can blend vegetarian and ketogenic together? And you can, and we have been doing some elements of that. So like I say, the no flour cheese sauce, that's a huge hit, and it gets you your fats that you need for keto without violating any of the meat stuff, right? So
have you peed on a stick since you started
No,
vegetarian?
I have not.
Out of total curiosity, whether you're in ketosis or you're
Absolutely
not.
I know
Absolutely
I'm not. The amount of
Right.
carbs that I've eaten
Right.
in the last
Because we've substituted a lot of breads and pastas.
Sure.
Way more than we've ever.
Oh, come on. I just had 2 black bean burgers tonight on, white buns.
Big old
They're
buns.
so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the paninis, we've been buying this nice sourdough, and it's like, it's hearty bread. It's good. But it's like, right, it's a treat, I guess.
That's right.
So the thing is, like, and I think, not that I want to go off on a whole thing about keto, but I think where a lot of people kind of fail in keto is that they forget that it's a high fat diet, and they struggle with getting the fats from non-meat sources. And so you end up eating a shitload of meat, and next thing you know, you feel like shit because, you're clogging up your arteries and all the other stuff that goes with that, right? I think there is a balance, though, where I can't say that I'm going to revert wholeheartedly, but it's a guarantee I'm going back to meat.
Oh, for sure.
It's
But
just
I
in
think-
moderation.
Yeah, and-
Everything in moderation.
That's kind of where I was leaning onto it too, where I think based on this experience so far over the last 20 days of eating no meat, I think the portion control of the meat that I will eat will be a lot easier for me to manage.
Now, here's a question.
Yep.
How do you feel?
So other than the fact that I'm still, I want to talk about that too in a minute, but so overall, let me just say I feel pretty good. So some of the little like internal things that I noticed prior to the challenge may or may not be there anymore. Little kind of like, oh, what's that little twinge there in my pec muscle?
Right. So yeah, you're feeling better.
I would say overall I'm feeling better, but it comes with a big asterisk, because for those of you who don't know me, I'm a very big guy. I'm over 6 feet tall, and I'm carrying a lot of weight. Like I came in at the challenge. I wasn't going to say this, but I'm going to. I came in at 300 plus pounds. I'm still over 300, but I am less than where I was when I started. And so I guess that kind of brings me to what I was going to say was, did you do any measurements before the challenge?
We just did weight.
You just did weight. Okay, so I did weight, and I did umbilical girth.
So circumference.
Yep. Yeah. So
and you know what? It's funny because Michelle and I both weighed in. We both wrote it down beside the scale.
Yep.
I think the biggest day I had was a 6-pound swing down.
Me too.
And I don't know if that was just sort of a gastrointestinal day that said, "Woo!
You need to evacuate."
Yeah. And a little bit more movement on that end of things. And I would tell you it's been a 3 to 4 pound swing up and down. And today I'm back half a pound down.
Oh, interesting. So it's kind of fluctuated for you. Because I am afraid of the scale, I have been very limited with how I use it. Since the challenge, I've been on the scale twice. Once to start. Oh, sorry, 3 times. Starting measurements, first week, second week.
Very good. And that, you know what, they say that there's no sense in being on it.
Don't get on it every day. You're just going to make yourself a mess.
I tell you, I feel like I'm sleeping better.
Oh, good.
And I feel like
I'm not.
My mornings, like I feel like I'm ready to get out of bed and get going. I'm not dragging ass.
No.
Out. Now again, I love to stay in bed.
Yeah.
I'll never say that.
No, I'm the same way.
And I could I could wake up and then go back to bed and then read a book or get on my iPad for another 2 hours in bed. But
I could get out of bed in the morning, have a shower, get dressed, have breakfast, get to the couch, turn the TV on, and then immediately have a nap.
Feels good, doesn't it?
It kind of does.
I know. But I would say I'm feeling better. I think I still have all the same aches and pains.
That I would agree with. I mean, I'm having other aches and pains, but I don't attribute any of it to the challenge. It's more...
Well, unfortunately, we're dealing with another lockdown. So what can you do, right?
There's a whole lot of sedentary lifestyle going on.
Netflix is, you know, you're sitting down, you're not doing anything. Normal routine.
So, I mean, getting into just the specifics of your eating habits, Kim, how are you feeling in terms of better, worse, same?
To be honest, I feel worse because I'm eating so many carbs.
Yeah.
I feel more sluggish. I'm not craving meat. If anything, maybe a chicken breast.
Sure.
Like a stuffed chicken breast or something. Or chicken parm. But I'm quite content with no meat.
Yeah.
I need to cut back on the carbs and the pasta. Because I think that's making me feel
Pasta has always been the whole time we've been together, pasta has been
kryptonite.
Of
and
course
then I feel like crap.
Yeah, yeah. I can remember commenting early on in our relationship. We don't do it as much now, but like eating pasta 3 or 4 nights a week.
I love pasta.
Yeah.
Love it, love it, love it. But I think because we've done keto as well, my body's used to cutting back on that. Now this month I've been eating like so much
this
more
is the
of
thing,
it.
right? Like the big change, the big difference was I think I mentioned to you earlier, Scott, before we recorded about, I actually feel less restricted eating vegetarian than I did eating ketogenic.
For sure.
Yeah.
How do you feel, Michelle?
I feel fine. I find I'm not as hungry.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not snacking as much.
That's a good one.
Mm-hmm. Lunches I think lunch is the worst one because I don't know what to pack for work.
Right.
I think we still don't know how to cook. Because a few nights we've had leftovers, and that was simple, right? You just threw the leftovers in, and
yeah. But the nights that we don't have like leftovers, and I have to sit there and think, what am I? And of course, mornings are crazy at our house because we all have to be out of the house within a 10-minute period.
And everybody's going, 4 people going in 4 different directions.
Yeah, 4 people, 2 bathrooms. Like, it's just so I'll take like,
whatever you
grab. Yogurt and
Yeah.
a banana, and that's it. And then by the time I get home, then you've got to, Scott has to cook because he's home before me right now.
Right.
I mean,
I'm starving by the time dinner comes when you've.
I mean, there's been days where I just cut up 1 pepper and half a cucumber, and that's what I've sort of moved and picked on all day, and an apple. So it's like our lunches have not been very exciting.
They would not pass the grade on the Canada Food Guide.
No.
Well, it's funny because the girl that I work with, her husband has a wonderful butcher shop in Lindsay.
Mm-hmm.
And he heard about this challenge, and he's like, "They're doing what?
Oh yeah.
Why would they do that to themselves?"
He goes, and he's famous for saying, salad, what real food eats.
Oh yeah. Salad is what my food eats. Yeah.
But of course, so he's getting the updates from my coworker, and I'm just like, yeah, we're still doing it.
I honestly think that my cardiac health has improved.
Oh, there you go.
I really do. I almost wish I could do one of those. Like we watched I don't remember the name of the documentary, but it was another one of those dietary documentaries that we've been watching in the last, year or so, where they did a blood analysis on a bunch of pro athletes. They're like NFL footballers.
And then they all went, I've seen this, and then they all went vegan.
Yeah.
And they all like drastic improvements.
In just the blood, like in every marker was improved.
It would be, this is the cool thing. If we lived in America, it would be so simple. You'd go and you'd say, I want to run my blood tox.
And they go, okay.
Okay, and that'll be $150, Mr. R. Scott. And here you go, and here are your results, and here's what they mean. And we'll see you in 30 days, and you can run your new levels, right? But in Canada, it's just not what we do.
Socialized medicine isn't set up to, give you elective stuff when you want it on demand. I mean, it's out there, and I'm sure you can find someone who will do it for you for a fee, but it just, like you say, we're just not set up for that. The accessibility is just not there like it is down south. But
there's tons of healthy reasons and scientific reasons to do it.
Sure.
As I say too, it's a lifestyle thing, and as you say, right, it's in how you feed your family, and it's how you have the food in your house. And then, as Michelle says, we bought half a cow and we got a pig in the freezer. we're just idiots.
And you guys picked the month in Canada,
well,
where there's no vegetables.
The deepest, darkest month of the year. Yeah, February.
Couldn't have done this in July when there were
when we could be outside barbecuing.
You know what's hilarious though? We bought a couple eggplants. Have we seen eggplant again? No. It's like we got the tail end of California eggplants or wherever the heck they were coming from, and I have not seen an eggplant in 3 weeks.
Interesting.
Like, got a couple of the first weeks, and not too bad. I would never said I was much of an eggplant guy either, but
we never did that.
Zucchinis were scarce for a while when we were looking for zucchinis.
But we eat that normally before the challenge.
But anything on your list that you want to do before it's over?
You know what? I actually, in my mind, I'm like, I'm gonna do all the water. I'm gonna do vegetarian, and I thought I'd get a couple of them in there, and I just really haven't. Is there anything that I want to do in the next 10 days that I haven't already done? Probably not. Certainly, I'd like to try some more things just so that I have a broader depth for when the challenge is over, so that it's less like when I want to keep it going, and I am less likely to fall off the wagon, I guess.
Right.
I guess what I'm saying is I just want to get more into a routine that's manageable and not. I guess I want to be more proactive and less reactive to, oh God, what do we got? It's 4:00. I got to make something.
Right. Because you guys would never write down your weekly.
We have in the past.
We have, but it's not a consistent thing.
Yeah.
No.
I think just the two of us. I think it's harder for just two. If we had the kids still at home, it'd be a reason to do that. Yeah. But for us, it's just kind of. Our schedule is lunch seems to be sometimes the biggest meal we eat of the day. Which right around 2:00,
cool,
we're both hungry.
Because you know what? I mean, I can still remember my grandparents. That was their big meal. Yeah. For sure. It was supper. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Supper was noon, right?
Sure.
I mean, there's a mindset of that, and then you have a smaller dinner, and then you went to bed. And
yeah.
That's kind of what we do.
Yeah.
More times than not.
I find it's funny because now we're eating, I don't know if you've noticed this, but in terms of like just generally speaking, in terms of trends, I would say that over the last couple of years, we are eating dinner later and later at night.
Yes,
whereas
you do.
Was like a few years ago, that would have drove me nuts.
As your friend,
yeah,
you eat late.
We are eating late,
and it's like Wesley, I'm ready to get drunk.
Please come over.
When are you coming over? Please come over. And he's like, yeah, we just started getting dinner ready. We'll be over later.
Oh,
and it's like, fuck, that means an hour and a half.
It used to drive me nuts.
6 o'clock.
You do
not.
No,
you do not.
You do not.
I feel like we do.
You're like 6.
No, there are nights. There are nights when we're eating at 7.
Sometimes, I guess.
More often.
More so. Yeah, more so in the last year or two than prior to. But again, I guess maybe that's just an indicator of where I'm at in my life, and things are slowing down.
But as you say, if you're not eating lunch
at
noon and you ate it at 2,
or 3,
that gets you further and further.
It does, yeah.
Into the. I mean, right? I remember my my great grandmother, and it was like, as she got older, just that craving of appetite and right. She'd get up and have a piece of toast, and then whenever 2-3 o'clock, she'd have a boiled egg.
Yep.
And maybe another piece of toast. Yeah. And then she'd maybe have some meat and potatoes for dinner. And I mean, that was, but it seemed late when I was a little kid, and it was like, man, she's eating. It's like 8 o'clock.
I tell you, the one thing that I have done more of in this month that I don't normally do is, crack a beer or pour a drink for the sake of having a beer or a drink, which I usually don't do really. But I've had I had one night where
well, again, we're in lockdown.
Had 4 or 5 tall cans.
You and
night.
I, we're the
nothing to do. Let's watch TV. I'm gonna have a beer. Oh, apparently I'm having 5.
I think I kind of joked that I'd need the alcohol to make the food go down easier, but I think there's been more nights where I've not had a drink during dinner than to have one.
Yeah, no, we don't normally.
But I mean, the nights I've had a beverage during this lockdown has been several.
Yeah.
Right, my partner in crime there, we've been drinking these Dark and Stormies, which is 2 ounces of your favorite dark rum over a ginger beer.
Interesting.
And they seem to go down really smooth. And I'll like have mine done and be like ready to go get another one. I'll look over to Michelle and she's like halfway through, and I'm like, "Oh gosh, I should wait. I'll wait until she's done."
Sure.
And I mean,
not me, man. If I'm done, I'm up. I'm looking at Kim. Do you need anything? Nope. Okay, I'm making one for me.
Yeah. Well, it works out that the ginger beers is like, right, 2 drinks is 1 bottle.
Well, if it's the stuff you showed me tonight, those are pretty big bottles.
Yeah. So I mean, that 1 bottle poured you and I a beverage tonight,
and
then our 2 ounces of rum on top of it.
Yeah.
So, but right, and then if you're like, okay, I'm gonna go make myself another drink, and she chooses not to have a drink,
you're now drinking.
Now
3.
I have a half a bottle open.
Well, here's the thing, right? I mean, if you're down and Michelle still has half a drink, and you're like, do I or don't I? The answer is you do. And then you can drink another one in the time it takes her to finish the half.
The half.
And then you can get up and make 2 more.
I think but the bottle ratio is still off.
Yeah, as long as you get some in your drink, though. Who
I
cares?
guess. Just put more ice and give myself a little less.
I guess, yeah, sure.
But,
sure.
I think, as we were saying, going ahead, I think definitely a few of these vegetarian...
Squirrel!
Squirrel.
Toe sandals.
Yeah, toe sandals. We were talking about things you still wanted to do. I'd love to see, I haven't seen it anywhere, it's probably out of season, but jackfruit.
Oh, yeah. And
apparently you can make it look like pulled pork.
I've heard of this, yeah.
But I haven't seen them anywhere. And again, maybe that's because I shop.
Aren't they an Asian thing?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's, somewhere not on this continent. But, right, somewhere, people say you can find them, but probably it's like Sobeys and Loblaws, which...
In the summer.
Well, it's summer over there.
I've even heard of them.
They've just got to import them here.
We can't get anything.
We got nice looking...
I'm sure some of those premium stores in the city, like Longo's or somewhere, probably has it.
Exactly, right? Which is not ever where I'm going to shop.
I'm not driving 2 hours to go to a Longo's, that's for sure.
So... But yeah, there's a few things like that. And then I was talking to somebody the other night, and it's funny because then somebody at Axe Throwing had mentioned it as well. That right, we're right. We want to pull out a roast, and we put the potatoes around it and the carrots around it, and right that whole. And somebody had mentioned this type of cheese. That's a little bit more substantial.
Yeah.
And then somebody at Axe Throwing had mentioned the exact
same cheese.
And you were like, hey, have you heard of this cheese? I'm like, yeah, it replaces roast beef. Or
interesting.
Something like that. But yeah, and I don't know, it's just a hearty kind of heavy cheese. And I don't know how you'd still prep it, but I mean, it's supposed to sort of be that replacement, because other than all these aftermarket meat replacements, it's right. That's what I want to know, what these vegetarians and vegans eat as that, like, what's that big solid protein? Like, how do you have meat and potatoes if that's, or
are they doing hordes of nuts? I mean, what are they doing?
Yeah. Or tons of casseroles.
That's
I mean, that's,
oh yeah, because you love casseroles.
I know. Well, there's that one I did, like the potatoes, the sweet potato, kale, and beets.
Yeah. We haven't had that one.
No.
Let's put it to the
but
listeners.
Where are you going to find beets?
Let's put it to the listeners. I mean, if you guys out there, especially you guys who voted, if any of you are vegetarian, give us your thoughts on how you're getting your proteins. I'd like to know what you're doing.
Or even a favorite recipe.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from
I think that's
that.
the hardest part. If we had more recipes and ideas, it'd be easier. But when you don't know, it's kind of like,
Yeah, well, it's like learning all over, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's reading like Pinterest and be like top 10 vegetarian meals, and you flip through and you're like, I could do that one, and then you're like, I don't even know what that is. Like this new, there's a nutritional yeast that I see added to a lot of recipes, and I'm like, I think they call it nooch.
Noochies.
As like a short nooch is like the vegetarian or the vegan short form or slang for it.
Okay.
And it's nutritional yeast.
Oh, okay.
But it's like, and it replaces like butter or like it's that thing that sort of replaces that in a vegan diet. But I don't know. I've been told like Joanne's place in Peterborough would carry it.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's the same thing. I wouldn't have a clue how to cook with it.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Yeah.
So, but there's definitely things out there that we haven't even scraped the surface of, right?
Sure there is, for sure.
You're just dipping your toe into the shallow end. When you really look at the meal options or the food options, I'm sure there's tons of other things that are out there and available.
Yeah.
And how to meal prep it.
Yeah.
That's the big one, right? Prep is obviously the big, and I think that's in any diet, really. Yeah. And I don't mean diet the thing you do to lose weight. I mean diet the thing you do to live.
I think for me, I get peckish. I'm not really hungry. I want something, but I don't know what it is.
Yep.
Is it sweet? Is it not? I open and close the fridge 500 times, the pantry.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's the most frustrating.
That's you. Do I want chips or chocolate? Why would you limit yourself? You want chips and chocolate.
But I don't know if even that's what I want.
Just start nibbling on both.
Yeah,
really.
I don't know.
Well, guys, is there anything you want to leave on before we wrap this up?
I don't think so. Thanks the girls for coming along for the trip.
Yeah, thank you for being here tonight to talk about this with us, and more importantly, like Scott said, thanks for going on the vegetarian journey with us. As always, I want to thank all of our listeners who, all 3 or 4 of you that, that got all your friends to vote on our challenge to watch us squirm, and as you can tell by the end of this episode, we have squirmed somewhat. Looking forward to getting back to things now that at least our province of residence is starting to open up again. For how long, we don't know. There may be another extended break here very soon. We don't know, but as long as we can keep getting together safely and recording, we will do so. Happy to be back. Happy to be back behind the microphone again. And for Hanging at the Barbershop, I'm your host, Wes.
And I'm Scott.
And we'll catch you later.
Talk to you later.
Hey, thanks for hanging with us at the Barbershop. You can find us on all your favorite podcasting platforms. Please like and share us on Facebook, and follow us on Instagram and Twitter to stay up to date on all of our shenanigans. Hanging at the Barbershop is a Sawcast production.